Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. I'm Jesse Cofield. It is time to hear some sounds from around NFL Sunday for Mic'd Up Monday, presented by Wrangler. So let's start with the Hackett revenge game. All right, Jets played the Broncos yesterday, and we all know that this was a personal one, given Sean Payton's training camp comments about, Hackett, where he said the 2022 Broncos were, who were coached by Hackett, undermined by one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL. Those were some fighting words. Everybody knew that this was a personal game, okay? And after the game, Coach Saleh acknowledged that it was meaningful for Hackett.
It was a special game for Hack, obviously being here a year ago. Racked up over 400 yards on him, put up 31 points, so I'm happy for him.
It was good, to be honest. Like, we mostly for Coach Hackett, I wasn't really worried about myself today. It was just, he stayed quiet, he stayed humble, respectful, so we wanted to come in and get a win today for him, and we did that. Better coach, better team won.
Whether he said much this week about it or not, I know it means a lot, and it meant a lot to this team for him.
The players were fired up, and Aaron Rodgers got in on it too with this little tweet. Hashtag Hackett, heart, and then another hashtag. So just some, you can tell that the players were as fired up by this as I'm sure Hackett was behind closed doors.
Oh, I have to imagine they said the most evil things about Sean Payton behind closed doors in this game. You saw some of it leak out on the field before the game. I forget which one of the Jets players got out there and was talking about the way he talked about our coach. Well, F him and F them. We're going to go out there and take care of business. Dad, this was as deeply personal as I feel like I've seen an NFL team treat a win in a long time. And make no mistake, it was a slugfest between two largely bad teams. This Broncos defense is historically bad so far this season. And the Jets offense took their sweet time outside of Breece Hall dominating this team the way that they probably should have with Zach Wilson at the helm. But that had to feel pretty damn good for Nathaniel Hackett, who I think I saw getting to swap some stories with guys from the Broncos that he clearly coached last year. They probably miss all of the Austin Powers jokes and were getting their fill of those after the game. But congrats to him on getting the dub.
Listen, Mike, you know the locker room, man. You're with those guys more than you're with your family at times. And it could be a close-knit group. Again, not everybody gets along with everybody, but it's like one of those things, we can mess with our guy. You don't mess with our guy. And Sean Payton certainly messed with their guy. So everybody, we go back to training camp when that was said, circle this week 5 matchup to say what would happen. And as you're right, these are two overall bad teams, but that didn't matter in this game. This was about, backing Nathaniel Hackett, if you're with the Jets, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and sticking into the face of someone who publicly went after your guy. And you do everything you can. As I said, bulletin board material works up till kickoff. And this was going to be, it wasn't the greatest game in the world, but I picked this as in the Golic thing we did last week, I picked it as the ick game. And by competitiveness, it was pretty good. Denver's got the ball, down a touchdown, trying to, or even up the, or down 3, I should say, trying to even up the game until Russell Wilson gets the ball knocked out of his hand for his second fumble, and Bryce Hall, not to be confused with Breece Hall, did an unbelievably athletic move, scooping that ball on the sideline and taking it to the house for the final points. But to be able to shove it back in someone's face, have that opportunity and do it, then you do it loudly. The game, wasn't questioned for a bit, but once you have that thing wrapped up, you start talking a whole lot of smack. And you know what? You can do it. You talk as much and as loud as you want, because that's exactly what Sean Payton did about that Denver team last year and what Hackett did.
You talk as much and as loud as you want within the confines of the matchup, because I think we all wondered if they'd be a lot better. Like, part of this was Sean Payton grossly miscalculated the dip on his own chip going into the season with how good his football team has been. Yes. And now he brought all that attention on them. And while the bulletin board material only lasts inside that locker room leading up, the attention that it brought to a Broncos team that is now confirmed big bad is something that's going to have a negative effect on them all season long. And for the Jets, their outcome still doesn't really change just because they got this win. Zach Wilson's still their quarterback. The season looks roughly like it did last year, where they don't in the AFC look like a playoff team and don't look like a team certainly capable of making that postseason run. But enjoy the feeling in the moment, talk that talk, and Nathaniel Hackett, I have a feeling, is going to do a really weird Gold member impression to start the team meeting this upcoming week. Jesse, good feelings there, bad feelings inside that division elsewhere for the New England Patriots.
Yeah, don't think we're going to be seeing any Austin Powers impressions from Bill Belichick anytime soon. Just when you thought it really couldn't get worse for Patriots fans after last week, they followed up last week's loss by getting shut out by the Saints 31-0. That's right. Quarterback struggles continued. We saw Mac Jones get pulled in the fourth quarter. And here's some sad stats for Patriots fans. Yesterday was the first time Bill Belichick has trailed by 30 points at home in his head coaching career, including with his time in Cleveland. It was the second worst loss of his career. Last week's loss was the worst of his career. And it is so bad, in fact, that Bill Belichick just wants to wipe the slate clean.
All right, well, obviously it was a poor performance today here, so I mean, just plain and simply, we got to find a way to, play and coach better than that, and so that's what we're going to do, start all over and get back on a better track than we're on right now.
What does that entail, starting over?
Starting over.
So, guys, you heard Greg Bedard of Boston Sports Journal. He's the one who asked that follow-up question. And after the game, Bill's being Bill. He's saying, like, it entails what it entails, starting over. But Greg Bedard was saying they couldn't really hear any of his responses, and it was making it really hard to ask follow-up questions. Because Bill Belichick, when he walked up to the podium, the first thing he did was take the NFL mic and he took it out of the holder and just dropped it on the table. Just left
Established dominance. That's a classic Bill Belichick move to come in and control the situation there and show everybody that while you may be down and your team may have only scored 3 points in their last 8 quarters, you are still the dominant force in this one. Dad, as far as changes that need to happen, I think the place that they've got to start is you got to think about benching Mac Jones at this point. You're just not getting any production out of that position. It seems lost. And Bailey Zappe's a guy that has come in at the end of the last 2 games. I know he, after the last game, defended Mac and said that he would be back out there. He just didn't want to get him hurt. But you got to do something to mix up the bag. At this point, Bailey Zappe is a guy that we saw get significant time last year at certain junctures. I still think the two of them is kind of a parent trap situation, but either way, feels like you got to do something because this is spiraling right now to the point where even your defense that had been so good and so competent started getting pushed around. Again, similar to what happened with Dallas, because everything is so off kilter in terms of what your offense is providing in complementary football.
Yeah, you're just asked to do too much. In this case, they're asked to basically to do everything. First and really quick, Alvin Kamara, congratulations to him. He had a touchdown, all-time leading score, career leader in Saints in touchdown. So congrats to him.
Wow.
But yeah, I agree. I agree. That would be the place to start. That's the most important position on the field. It's getting them nothing right now, because when you say start over, you're starting over with the same guys in that locker room. That's it. That's all you have. So it's what you're going to shuffle there, and that's the shuffle that could at least have the biggest impact within the locker room. I don't think it's going to have much impact on the field, but you have to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere with that. I don't know what else you're going to get, because I don't think you fire Bill Belichick. I don't think that's a conversation. Unless Bill wants to leave, I'm still not willing to go that far. So if you're going to bench the quarterback, Mac Jones is certainly not going to be the guy in 2020 or 2024 at this rate. And Bill O'Brien might not be the offensive coordinator in 2024 at this rate. We know where you start to go and the limbs you start to hack off before ultimately you get to that spot.
It's also interesting you mentioned, because after Jesse mentioned it, Bill taking the microphone and putting it down, you mentioned establishing dominance. It's not really big anymore, is it? It doesn't really. It's kind of losing its effect, isn't it? Of Bill establishing dominance. It's just that, listen, he's still one of the greatest coaches of all time. He walks into the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying anything about that. But as far as that dominance, it's not there. It's gone. I mean, it is completely gone to where they're going to be the worst team in that division, which what a lot of us thought anyway. So some of these power moves are going to get to the point of, when you're putting rings on your finger, cool. When you're not, you start to roll your eyes a little.
When you're not, it looks a little petulant.
Yeah, when you're not, you're
mission
in the
accomplished.
They're in right now. But coming up next, we got to get to one of the worst coaching decisions we've ever seen from college football this weekend next.